What's your name?
Funn Roberts. I like to make things, and one of the things I especially like to make is stuff with precious metals. This was a ingot of silver, a 2-ounce ingot of silver that I'm going to cut into 3 pieces and try to smash it to my will. It's interesting, the side that's got the stamps from the whoever made this ingot, I can feel the difference in the material because it's been stamped a little bit. It's a little bit harder on this side than it was on the other side. I've done welding and blacksmithing, and then I apprenticed with a silversmith in the early 2000s. Kind of a famous silversmith named Alan Adler. And I didn't really learn so much of what I do, but I learned a lot about just the nature of the metal and the nature of the business, and I had a hard time committing to the business of it because I get so much joy and pleasure out of doing it. I'm afraid to turn it into my job, but I also feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out because if I enjoy it so much, why not fucking do it more?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that I use a chisel and not a saw is just the idea of keeping all the material.
Mm-hmm. That's it. I totally makes sense.
I'm just separating it. It's like cheese. You could cut cheese with a saw, but you'd lose all that precious cheese.
Is there a metal you like to work more than others?
Precious metals are really special. Gold is really neat to work with because it's so malleable and soft. Silver is kind of the universal, it's very much like copper, kind of the universal metal. It's very, it's very easy and forgiving, and you can kind of use any different kind of technique with it, and it's very friendly in a way. I also like to work titanium, but titanium is the opposite of that. It's very, very resistant to your advances usually. It wants to stay how it is. It doesn't like you to tell it to do something else. Whereas silver is pretty middle of the road as far as very much it will do what you ask it to do. And gold is kind of like almost complicit, like it knows what you want before you do, and it kind of is trying to yield to your advances. We're just about through.
Jeez.
So from 1 to 3. So this was 2 ounces, so these are about, what was that, 2/3 of an ounce each? They feel substantial. And we didn't lose any of the mass of it.
Cool.
I just use oxypropane. Need to anneal these. can use this sparker, but it's fucking sketch.
Bring it here.
Yeah, otherwise it's fucking. I'm annealing the silver, kind of using a little bit too much torch for it, but this when I worked the silver, like I was saying earlier, that like the side that they had stamped felt different than the side they hadn't, and it's because when they stamped it, when you work silver, it gets harder, and so because I just cut it up, it got harder, and so in order to keep working it, now I want it to get soft again, and so I'm just going to heat it up to red hot and put it in water, and that's called annealing, and it will soften the silver again. And I'll have to do that kind of over and over throughout this process. Also need to find. What's that? No, I'm not gonna melt them down. I'm just gonna get them hot enough to turn red, and that's enough to soften them. I'm not gonna do any hot forging because it's too hard to hold on to those little things. So I'm going to do cold forging, but as I work the silver, it gets hard, and then I anneal it, and it gets soft again. So I just throw them in there. It might take a minute for this to warm up, but they'll warm up and get nice, and you'll see them. They'll get really nice and toasty hot, and then we'll throw them in some water and start banging on them some more. Oh, look at that guy. Nice and hot. Feel how hot it is.
That's some serious atom smashing.
It's funny, there's guys who've done they weigh everything and then they analyze it, and they find that it loses mass even if you don't, like just working it, but some of the mass goes away. Yeah. My work? Middle Earth, ancient future kind of scenario. I really like high-tech materials. I discovered titanium and kind of fell in love with the material, and then And then the style that I like to do and what I've learned most of is mostly like hand, you know, really a lot of more old world kind of techniques. And so combining old world techniques with ultra high-tech space age material kind of been the thing that I enjoy a lot. Oh, hold on. That one got a little wet. Hold on. This here is a spoon handle that's coming together. It will have one of these little titanium sheet metal bowls on it, eventually. Just a little something to do while we're waiting for the other stuff to happen. Ah, 1872. French anvil called a Harmel Hublot. And a friend of mine was dealing in antique French furniture, and his boss had imported it from France. And he wanted my help moving some furniture one day. And I went and I saw, when I saw this, I was like, whoa, what do I got to do? What I got to do to get a hold of that? And he was like, well, if you help me move this furniture and give me $150, I'll let you have it. This is over 300-pound anvil, so the price goes up quite a bit once they start getting big. I had a Peter Wright anvil, which is kind of the standard that they measure all anvils by a little bit. You know, it's a pretty common and good quality anvil, but they're so loud. They really ring. This anvil I don't know if, I love it. I'm not sure how actually good it is. It's 1872, so pretty old. Could it, oh, just the hardness of the steel. You know, that's what makes a Peter Wright ring so much. I also had a Hay Budden, which is made in New York, and they're really good quality anvils. I am looking for something that has a hole in it that I can use so I can punch that hole through. This feels so good to me to do this work. It's like any excuse to do this. You know, it doesn't matter to me what it is. Like if anybody asked me, hey, can you show me how to, can you make that, can we do it? Blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, oh yeah, fucking come on, let's go. You know, like absolutely, like that's all I want to do. Like I've just been waiting for somebody to say, hey, let's do this. So here's my little bit of waste. Those 3 little dingles, they're gonna be massive. I just need the holes.
You work other materials. Your jade is pretty crazy. Stone and wood. You're pretty much a all material guy.
Pretty much, yeah.
What drives you into this?
I don't know. It just kind of discover them. You're kind of like, you see something that's interesting, and then I kind of feel like, oh wow, what's that? How does that work? What can I do with that? Like the jade, it just was a random thing. It just like I discovered, you know, I was up in Big Sur and I went to Jade Cove, and I tricked myself into thinking I had found jade. I found a bunch of serpentine and was like, oh, but then it was really exciting. So then I started finding stuff and then just like, oh, and then finding the tools and finding the different people in my life who had some experience with some of that. Or I've always liked finding stuff. The best finding for me, I love to just walk around and look at the ground. It's always a special thing when you can find something that has some intrinsic value, but also has this intrinsic feeling. And then with the jade, it was like when I think it was somehow related to the titanium, you know, in some weird way, because it was like this magical material. And then I started learning about jade a little bit more and realizing that, wow, this was what, you know, before there was copper, before they discovered copper, they were making tools out of jade. And so it was like, wow, and they were doing it all over the world. They were doing it in New Zealand, and they were doing it in Canada, or, you know, they were doing it in Guatemala. They were doing it in these interesting places that were just like, and it had this incredible, you know, history for mankind as this, you know, somewhat indestructible, you know, an incredibly useful material. And so it was just like kind of tapping into the history of man a little bit, and then also kind of tapping into just like, well, what is this stuff? What is this? How does this work? So I had punched through this side, and I knocked out a little chunk that looked like this. This little piece that came out of there. And then now I'm taking the same tool, which is just a simple center punch, and just opening the hole. Don't want to lose that one. Ugh. I heard a really interesting concept the other day about wood, and it was like, in the universe, wood may be one of the rarest things there is. Like, we think of diamonds and gold, and oh, these are really rare. But on a universal scale, they're actually kind of common. In the cosmos, diamonds are not that rare. Gold is not that rare, it's everywhere. But wood is this thing that's like, hey, this is something that is only, you know, they don't think they haven't found any other planets like this. And they know that, you know, so it was really interesting to think. It changed the way that I think about wood, because I was like, oh, I really appreciate wood. But I was also, you know, but it was like, oh, wow, imagine that this is the rarest substance in the universe.
In the universe.
Isn't that a cool concept? This chunk of koa wood, this stuff has been extinct for fucking a million years.
On Earth.
Yeah, it's been extinct on Earth for a million years, you know? I've got a bunch of petrified wood, and also the petrified whalebone. That's the thing that to me is just like, it's really neat, you know?
You're not gonna find that on fucking Pluto.
I'm gonna have to switch hammers here pretty soon. That's the bludgeon. I want these to be a little bit finer. This is a practice at making rings, you know, and I kind of feel like this would be a fun way to make their rings, you know. To me, it's something really special when you take a hunk of metal and you put a hole in it, rather than taking a strip of metal and turning it into a ring, you know.
Three wings. One
Fucking
one for the head,
3-ring circus right here.
for the circus.
I might just keep smashing it through here. It's kind of easier to push it like with a taper than it is to beat on it. Well, it's interesting. There's this concept about, you know, play and work. Doesn't necessarily mean art, but there's this concept about play and work. And for me, there's part of the reason that this is hard for me to make into work is because it's so playful. I really enjoy the play the play of this. Like, even though I'm like I've honed it enough that I know how to do it, it still is like, it's very playful. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm playing around, you know. And so it's like, which gives me a lot, you know. It's not as serious. It's hard for, I don't take it that seriously, you know. One wing to fool them, another to school them. One to make it a circus. This may be the last heat, and the work hardening, even though it's not that much harder, it will make a big difference in the wearability of it, like how much it deforms. Fucking rad. Solid as a motherfucker.
That's this other one you made me. They are a little hunkier.
I searched out people who knew what they were doing, and I said, how can I learn from you? You know, or they searched me out, but it was always this thing where it was like there was this transfer of information and knowledge that came from, you know, somebody who knew what the fuck they were doing. I didn't, you know, all I did was like clean the shop and fucking do the stuff, you know, do the basic stuff, and then slowly over time, as I was around, they would give me more and more stuff to do. They never really taught me how to do anything. They just said, here, do this. You know, don't worry, you can figure it out. Or, oh, wow, what the fuck am I doing here? How do I do this part? And they're like, look, you just use the, you know, use this tool or that tool. You know, so I think it was really just without having any thought about humbleness or without having any thought about what I was doing. It was just like saying, wow, you're amazing. Like, this, what you're doing is so cool. Like, what can I, you know, can I do that? How can I do that too? And that was the real thing that I think, you know, that drove me to doing all the things. And I think it's really just like looking for somebody who knows more than, you know, who knows more than the average bear. You know, definitely knows more than me. Usually if you approach somebody and you want to learn from them, they're open, they're ready to, they want to tell you, they want to show you, especially if you're interested in your, you know. Try this one. I'm liking that one the most now. It's a little smaller than the other two. Yeah, we'll just sand it out to 220 and then we'll buff it out a little bit. They're all the right size now, so.
They all have different flavor.
Yeah. They're different. I like that one too. I like all of them.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, Cougar. Happy 16th birthday.
That's really nice.
Yeah, good friends are worth keeping.
3 rings.